everyone, and thank you for joining us for an Americans for Limited Government live stream. I'm very excited today to welcome our guest, Juleen Jackson. She is Vice President of Moms for America. And what we want to talk to Juleen about is something that she was a leader in, very much involved, the parents fighting back against these woke school boards and how that really made an impact in the Virginia elections. And that may be a template moving forward in the midterms and in the 2024 election of how parents can change these election outcomes to really fight for our children and to fight for our individual liberties and rights and our freedoms and for limited government, which is our passion here. So thank you, Juleen, for all that you have done. And I'll let you just talk a little bit about Moms for America, what you did, and sort of what were the results here in this past week.
Hi, Catherine. Yes, so I am Juleen Jackson. I'm the National Vice President over Moms for America cottage meetings. Our whole premise at Moms for America is that liberty begins at home. When mothers, specifically mothers, but when mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers know and understand the principles of liberty and freedom and know and revere those stories and miracles of America and have a reverence for the Constitution and our founders, it's the most natural thing then for them to go and to teach their children and their grandchildren. And so when mama knows, her children will know. And so I'm a part of organizing cottage meetings around the country of mothers coming together to learn principles of liberty and freedom, and then going home and teaching them to their children. And then as they continue to gather these groups of women in their communities, maybe moms in the neighborhoods or from the church community or from the school community, they can gather once a week, once a month, whatever the needs of the mothers are. And we, at Moms for America, we give them curriculum so they know what to study. I teach these classes live online, so the mamas, if they don't have a group of women in their neighborhood, they can come online, and the moms from all over the country come online. And as they begin to go through the 12-week and the 16-week series of principles of liberty and freedom and teaching the Constitution and what's gone wrong and what we can do to be a part of the solution, something is triggered in their heart, because they get on their knees when you begin to learn and go, God, what do you want me to do with the things that I'm learning? And God individually will inspire, these parents to rise up and do something. And so it was so thrilling for me to be a part of the moms that lived in Loudoun County and Fairfax County down in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Am I saying that right? Yes. That would come into my classes. And then after class, the moms will stay on for a half an hour to an hour around the country and talk about what they're doing with this knowledge that they're gaining. So many of the moms have begun to attend the school board meetings and to speak not just from emotion, anger, fear, hate, but now to speak on principle that they're learning in these cottage meetings. And as mothers and fathers will see it, speaking on principle before the school board, it is powerful, and they speak with greater authority because they're not wailing fear and emotion, and they're speaking principles and truth that are universal. And truth and principle resonates, and it even transcends party and politics when you know your principles. And so and it makes an impact, and that's a lot of the mamas that had been studying with Moms for America were attending the school board meetings in Virginia. We're attending the press conferences. We're having rallies. We're speaking. We're getting groups of parents together and writing letters and having prayer rallies. And look, God doesn't need a majority. He just needs enough parents standing up, pushing back, speaking intelligently to prevail.
And Juleen, to your point, here's a headline from the Washington Post. This was from the day after the election. Parental say in schools, resonant in Virginia governor's race, bound for GOP national playbook. So clearly the work that you have been doing now for a number of years, this didn't just pop up overnight. Your work, you've been laying the ground for this for a number of years. It made a difference. Parents really are getting a lot of the credit for changing the direction of the election. It's certainly here in Virginia. And good job. Thank you for everything you've done. And I want to play a short video. This was a man I think it's Brandon Michaud. He was from Loudoun County. So he's a father. He's not a mother, but that's just great.
Hey, we'll take our dads.
Yeah, we love the dads too. And his video was from several months ago, and it just really got a lot of attention. And let's see what he had to say.
From your day jobs, because if your employers knew that you were more inefficient than the DMV, you would be replaced in a heartbeat. I literally just finished a conference call because I'm having to multitask to be here to address you guys. You're a bunch of cowards hiding behind our children as an excuse for keeping schools closed. You think you're some sort of martyrs because of the decisions you're making when the statistics do not lie that the vast majority of the population is not at risk from this virus. The garbage workers who pick up my freaking trash risk their lives every day more than anyone in this school system. Figure it out or get off the podium, because you know what? There are people like me and a line of other people out there who will gladly take your seat and figure it out. It's not a high bar. Raise the freaking bar.
Yeah, he was fabulous. That was Brandon and the Loudoun County School Board. And that was the thing that really, I think so many parents, myself included, although my youngest child just graduated in June, we just felt let down by these local school boards. And part of it was COVID. And then on top of that was the critical race theory curriculum they were trying to introduce. And Juleen, I'm sure you know this, but the talking point now from the left and here in Virginia is, well, we weren't teaching critical race theory. And the media then parrots that. They were teaching critical race theory. They just are using a different name. And it's so frustrating to hear the media continually say, well, they weren't teaching critical race theory. Oh, well, they were. They just called it something else. So how do you fight against that?
Right. So, of course, they're always going to deny things that are anti-God or anti-American that they're teaching. But when they begin to take prayer and Bible reading out of the schools in the 1950s, the curriculum has gone down. And what do you replace it with? Well, you replace it with anti-American and anti-God curriculum. And so, I think parents have been busy doing what they do best, providing for their children and busy taking care of family, but they are waking up because we're losing our kids. Our kids don't think that America is a special, exceptional place, and they're being affected by the teachings in the schools. So the parents are worried. And I always say, to counter what is being taught in the school systems, moms and dads, you need to teach these stories, these miracles, these principles at home. For years, we have 5 kids. Before our kids would leave for school, we would teach them, we'd read a little bit of the Bible, and then we teach them a story from American history of our founding fathers, a miracle. We teach them a principle from the 5,000-year leap. We'd sing a song, we'd pray with them and get them off to school. So, as you do that in your home, you shore that kid up. So when they're sitting in their history class in high school and the teacher is telling them something negative or, derogatory about our founders, they can recognize truth from error. I mean, it would be nice to think, oh, well, let's somehow find a way that we can completely control what our teachers are teaching our children. The teachers are products of coming up under godless education. So, it's so ingrained in them that they don't know how to teach anything else. So it will have to be offset by what is being taught in the home. And this is why we teach mothers, and we even have classes. Me and my husband teach a constitutional class every Thursday night online to shore up moms and dads so they know how to teach their children. So when the children go out in the world, they can discern truth from error, and they don't just have to sit there and take it from their university professor or their teacher in high school. They can go, wait a minute, that's not right. I've learned something different in my home. They can raise their hand and they can counter. But if the parents aren't teaching these principles and these stories and this beautiful history within the 4 walls of the home, the kid might very well be gullible and reeled in by what is being taught in their schools and what they're seeing on the social media feed. So I always say, mamas, you will be the best teacher your children will ever have. You are the most qualified to teach them the things that they need to know to go out in the world and be a part of the solution and not the problem. And so I try and wake the mamas up in a good way so they can then counter and shore their kids up as the kids go out in the world and have to be subjected to a lot of foolishness and lies.
Right, Juleen, I like that because I think what happened during COVID is the kids were home, parents were home in a lot of cases, and they had more of a window into what was being taught in the classrooms. And it was shocking some of the things that parents were hearing coming from their kids' computer screens. I know my son and I, he was a senior here at Fairfax County. Some of the things that, he was talking about, I said, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. And I think a lot of us parents had that. But then, we don't always feel like we're up to the task of teaching our kids. We're like, well, I'm not adequate to be a homeschool parent. That's not really what my strength is, or I work, so I don't have the time. But what you're saying, Juleen, I really like, because you're telling parents, we don't have to take over and homeschool our children necessarily, but we can be involved in small but significant ways. Like you just said, you had daily devotionals with your family where you talked about the Constitution. And those are things that I think every parent could carve out a few minutes a day. And that gives your children tools that they can speak up in classrooms when something doesn't sound right to them. And I know my son often came home with stories like that. And we tried to do, like as you said, say, well, here's what you can say, or here's another way to view it. So I think a lot of families, are having these conversations, and certainly now more than ever. So thank you for what you're doing, trying to give families and parents those tools.
Yes, truly, liberty begins at home. And so when mama is learning and dad is learning right along with the kids, I mean, me and my husband in our devotionals, the things I was teaching them, I would learn in the cottage meetings with the other moms, and I would come back and I was still a novice, and my kids were my guinea pigs, and we learned together. And ultimately, some of the things that I taught in my little family devotional pricked my husband's heart. And he's like, I got to walk the talk. I got to show my kids that I love America and I'm going to do something about it. And it caused my husband to run for the state Senate and win. And I've seen my grown kids now as they've left the house and go out in the world. I have a son in the NBA, and he's often the only player on that court that has his hand over his heart when the national anthem is played before each game. And it's because what he learned in the home. So sometimes I think as mothers, we're like, is anyone listening? Am I making a difference? But you just got to go ahead and consistently teach your children, whether it's over, at the dinner table, or before they go to bed, or in the morning, or sometime when you can gather those children together, even in high school. I mean, it's best if you can start young, but if you got to start when they're in middle school or high school, if it's important to you, it will become important to them. And as you consistently shore them up and give them a counter to the message that they're hearing in school and on the social media, they really will rise up. Because if it's important to you, it will resonate in their heart that this is my mother teaching me this. And even if they roll their eyes for a time, they will come back to those teachings. They will remember, and in their hour of need, it will rise up, and they will have the courage to defend what you planted those seeds within them, within the four walls of your home. I know this because I've seen it in my own home, and I see it every single time I teach the mothers. They tell me stories of how as they are learning, they're teaching their children, and the impact it's having on their children. It's transformative within the home for a mother and a father to teach and shore up the children within the four walls of their home for the onslaught of untruth that they're going to get out in the world.
And Juleen, in closing, what advice or suggestions do you have for parents on how we can remain active and involved for the next election, which will be the midterms, where we will elect our members of Congress? How can we continue to be effective?
The first thing we need to remember is that, look, our freedom comes from God, not government. We don't look to Washington, D.C. or political leaders to tell us what to do. We ask God, and then we keep our family close, and we we teach our kids, to turn to God. Our nation was founded on a foundation of faith. And then we learn for ourselves, the Constitution from the viewpoint of the founding fathers. And that's where Moms for America comes in. We have all these great classes that I teach. I break down the Constitution to mamas. What does it mean? Why is the Constitution important for me as a mother? What does it mean for my children? And then as the moms begin to learn these principles, they teach them at home. And then God puts on their heart, well, what should I do? Should I show up at the next school board and give a 2-minute testimony? Should I support a good, God-fearing, virtuous candidate who loves families, who's pro-life? I mean, Youngkin and Winsome, they're Sears. I mean, what can we do to continue to promote those kind of leaders? Should I run for office myself? I can't tell you how many moms ran for the school boards that have been through the Moms for America curriculum and won. Wednesday was such a great day in our cottage meetings, and several of those mamas around the country hopped on, and they said it was learning these principles of liberty and freedom, going to God, asking, what should I do now that I know this? How can I shore up my home? How can I shore up my community, my schools? And doors of opportunity will open. And so continue to learn and study, keep your family close, look to God, and God will let you know what you should do in order for the next election.
Okay, Juleen, if you can hear me, I'm not sure if you can see me. It looks like I may be having internet connectivity problems on my end, but maybe not. Let me see. I can definitely see you. But I know I've had some internet issues here on my end. But anyway, we'll just want to let people know where they can go to find out more. It looks like it's momsforamerica.us. Is that right?
That's it. Just go to momsforamerica.us, hit on cottage meetings, hit on the virtual cottage meetings, register, and they're free. Wednesday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursday evenings, 7:30 Mountain Standard Time, 1-hour classes. The evening classes, moms, dads, teenagers get on. The Wednesday classes are primarily moms, grandmas, anyone can get on. And just come and begin to learn and study together, and it's transformative. It will help you stay anchored in hope instead of feeling discouraged. When you know solutions to the problems, you become a stabilizing force, because as mama is anchored in hope, her children, her marriage, her husband, the community will be anchored, and you really will be a light in your home and in neighborhoods and communities. So join us at momsforamerica.us.
Got it. I have it up right now. momsforamerica.us. Super simple. And there you can find resources and tools and groups that you can join, where you can learn how to teach your children the basics of the Constitution so that they can fight back when they're in the classroom and they hear something that doesn't sound right to them, and also how just to get involved and be engaged to make a difference. As we saw so many mothers here in Virginia, especially, and in other states that had elections this past week, were able to have their voices heard and move our country back toward the place of more freedom and liberty and limited government. So thank you, Juleen, for everything that you're doing, and we appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for the great work you're doing.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you next time on an Americans for Limited Government live stream.
Okay.